Okay, good morning. So we're up to Siman Shin Beis Seif Gimel. We're going to be talking today about folding clothes. What a different laundry process back in the day, but it does have a lot of relevance today when it comes to folding the Tallis on Shabbos or folding your trousers in the creases and that sort of thing. It does have a lot of relevance. Says the Machaba Seif Gimel, Mekaplim Kalim b'Shabbos. You're allowed to fold kalim, clothes, begodim, material on Shabbos, l'tzorech Shabbos, for the benefit of Shabbos, l'lovshem b'bayom, to wear them on that day. V'davka ba'odom, dafka for echad, dafka with one person, v'chadoshim, that are new, shadayin lo niskapsu, that have not been washed, v'levonim, and white ones. We'll see all of the detail in the Shabbat explaining this. V'ein lo lahachlif, and he's got no other begodim. V'im chosar echad me'elu hatanoim, and if one of these conditions is missing, also then you're not allowed to fold. V'yesh misha omer, telekaplei shaloi kaseda kipule harishon, mutter b'chol inyan. If you don't fold them in the original folds, then that would be okay. V'nirin devarov, and those, that seems to be accurate. That seems appropriate. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah base l'tzorech Shabbos. Dimein mekaplin regilim shemiskatmin. The concern is that if you don't fold them straight after the material has been laundered, then they're going to shrink. To wear them on that day. Therefore, it's forbidden to fold a tallis. Even though, of course, the mitzvah of tzitzis is throughout the day. And you could wear it. Also, since you're not intending to wear it, then it would be also. Unless you plan on wearing that tallis at mincha time for whatever reason. We'll see more details soon. But Adam Echad, so it's allowed if there's one person folding it. Not when you have two people. Why? Because when you fold it with two people, then the creases are smoothed out much more effectively. And therefore it looks like when you do it with two people, it's masak and mono, you're fixing this item. And if you sort of rest it on the other end of the talus or the material on a bench, it's as if you've got assistants, and therefore as if you're doing it with two people. Items which have not been washed. If it hasn't been washed, then the material gets a bit harder. And it's not going to sort of cause creases too quickly. And therefore the folding of that material is not considered so significant. That it looks like tikkun mana. And white ones. So the heter would be dafka for white, but if it's a coloured material, that looks the folding is more of a tikkun. But if you've got another item of clothing on Shabbos, even though it's not as nice as the first one, the Chazal didn't allow you to fold it. Also, certainly if you're not intending to wear it that day, it's also beyond Shabbos, when Yontav falls on Erev Shabbos, you are allowed to fold your talis if it's new and white, where the folding is therefore less significant. Even though you're not planning on wearing it again that day, and that's dafka if you've made Erev Tafshinin, which is not only about food, it's about any other preparations for Shabbos, when Yontav is on Erev Shabbos. But if you didn't do Erev Tafshinin, then you can't start folding the talis for the next day on Yontav for Shabbos. The Rikvega proves that actually even without an Erev Tafshin it would be okay. Let's just finish the Mishnah and then we'll talk about Tallisim. Because if you don't fold it in the original creases, the Mechaba says, then mutter b'chol inyan. So you fold your talis a bit quickly and not in the original creases, then there's no problem. Ve'ein kan mesakin klal, says the Mishnah Berurah in Ches, lefichach mutter afilu ein by echad me'elu hadalad protim. Even if you haven't got all the conditions, i.e., you're doing it with two people and it's colored material, etc., then still that would be okay if you're not folding in the original creases. Even if you're you're not planning on wearing it again that day. V'nirin devarov v'chein sos ma'achrein l'dina. U'mikol makom misha reitz l'achmei al atzmei shaloi l'kapel klal. But if someone wants to be makbid, even not to fold it at all, even not in the original creases, vaday od if that's preferred. Matzin es hamitzas milel Shabbos to Shabbos. We make the beds from one Shabbos to the next. In other words, Erev Shabbos, your bed should be freshly made. But it's better to do it on Erev Shabbos. But you can't make your bed, smooth over the sheets and the blankets on Shabbos for Motzei Shabbos. But you can do it on Friday night for a shluf on Shabbos afternoon. But if it's in your house, you go to one of the Gedolim and you see pictures of Reb Steinman and his bed is there in the room, right? So then, if it's you're leaving it unmade, then you can straighten it out to make it tzorech Shabbos. This of Hatzos HaMitzah is dafka if you're with smoothing over the sheets very beautifully, putting the blanket back on the bed or the duvet back on the bed is no problem bichlal. It's just we're talking where we're smoothing out all the creases in the sheets and things like that. Okay, let's take a look at the Tallis. Take a look at footnote 27. Therefore, someone who folds his tallis in the creases, in the folds, but he doesn't do it neatly, exactly in the creases. He does it more sort of quickly or haphazardly. And that's what I do. So Shabbos morning, I take my tallis. I'm not planning on wearing it at Mincha. So I could, I don't daven Mariv in the shul where I daven Shachris on Shabbos morning. So I could just, so what's what I do. So I just fold it quickly, but I don't do it in the original creases. Then he said, Mr. says no problem.
So I'm doing the same. So I would do the same, but every week I'm doing it the same, not creases. So it's become like.
Yeah, but you'll see as well.
I do exactly the same. I do it the exact opposite of the crease.
Okay. If you look at
every week the same.
But it doesn't become a chosh of new crease. You'll see. Yeah. Hey, look at 28 as well. I think that's what you're talking about, right? If you look at 28, Kagoyim b'talis miyodes l'Shabbos bilvad, your Shabbos talis. Kosev adas teir shari u'kumisha mekapel zabeged b'kipul harogel. Is that what you're saying? Shemach shemashir oisel izman rav ba'ifin zeh nimsa she'elu hem keflam haragilim. Meidach das agon Shem zaman arba. She'im kafle abeged harishonim nikar madayin. If the original creases are still there, which I think they would be in your talis, right? Then mutar lekafle, then it would be okay. Sheloi kaderech kipulei va'afilu mashir oisel bizman oifen zman ravu. Zman rav. So lechera, that's your case. So therefore, to fold it not in the creases, because the original creases are apparent, lechera will be okay. What about other clothes? For example, folding jumpers and things like that. So that's bichlal no problem. If you carry on the next paragraph in footnote 28. He says, "V'godim she'ein kifleihem nikarim klal." You got other material, other clothes where the creases are not recognizable at all. Kagoin begodim asuyim migumi or min nylon, depends on the material. Or begodim srugim v'chein shah begodim ovim. Das hagan rushlam mezabach shemutzah lekaflon. All of those, there's no problem whatsoever to fold those clothes. Okay, we'll come to trousers in a second.
With the towels, if you use, let's say, the table.
Right.
But you turn it the other way.
Yeah, then it's fine. So once you don't do it in the creases, then there's no problem. Yeah. It's the same thing. So if you do it, I don't know about you, but when you do a tablecloth, so long as you do it not in the original creases, then you're going to be okay. But if you've got a big tablecloth and you're doing it particularly with two people in the original creases, then you could have a problem. I can never get in the original creases, so I'm not particularly. So I'm always safe. All right, let's carry on. Dalet. Machbesh. Now machbesh is a press. Hu kli shekoivshin by begodim acha kvisa vehem shtei luchos ze al ze v'habegodim beineihem shel balabayis. Now if it's just sort of a small home press then matirin oisoi little mimena begodim l'tzorech Shabbos. You're allowed to undo the press, release it, so that you can open it and then take out the begodim l'tzorech Shabbos. V'shel uman, but also. But if it's a big sort of a professional press, like you see in the dry cleaners, mipnei shehu tochuv b'chazok v'atrosu doim elastira, then that's a problem, because opening it up appears like a binyan and stira, like releasing and destroying, etc. Says the Mishnah Berurah Sif Katan Chav the Tzorech Shabbos, Tzorech Shabbos lay. But to open up the press, even the home one, without a Shabbos need is a problem. That you can't press weekday clothes on it on Shabbos. But the professional one, which is much stronger and bigger, if however the press was a little bit open from before Shabbos, even then you can't, there are those who say you can't extract your begodim from it. There are those who are mekel. If it was fully open, everyone agrees you can slip out the begodim from it. Okay, hey, we'll come to to hanging up trousers in a sec. Hey, choluk la'achar kvisa, a shirt or a beged after washing, who miskasha, it's sort of stiff. And you just sort of brush it down to soften it up a little bit. I think nowadays the cleaning materials we use are much gentler and softer. In those days, imagine like the starch, and it was much harder. And anyway, you would rub it down to soften it up. Just to put your hands over it to soften it up and smooth it over is okay. Your intention is just to soften it up. Sudar also, but if it's like some sort of scarf or handkerchief or something like that, that would be also because you want to sort of make it look brighter. And therefore it could be a problem of malabein. Says the Ramava, koivoim, hats, v'shar kli pishton, dinon kusudar, and therefore it's a problem to brush them on Shabbos because it's got a din of libun. Says the Mishnah Berurah, muta, aval also legalgal aladei kli kaminag. You can't roll it with a kli because that's proper laundering. V'chein also lasis kamotim bedvarim ha'muchubasim aladei kelim asuim lekach, and you can't put creases into things with special implements. Aval suda is also bein l'shafshef. מבפנים בין לשפשף מבחוץ, מפני כי הוא מקפיד על ליבוני, because you're makpid on the libun, on the laundering. V'zihuro is shel sudar yosem mikutones, and this sudar is considered more laundering than a regular shirt. The shamam rinan de'ena mechaven el rakhe, because there I'm just brushing it down to soften it. Venira, sorry, the mischaven b'choluk l'tzachsche. But if your intention is even to brighten the choluk, also kamei b'suda, that would be a problem, even like the suda. V'kayvoim hainu shel pishton. V'atam shechmirush b'chli pishton mipnei sheim koshim achar kitzatz, and they get quite hard after you've cleaned them. V'rikuchon zeu libunon, and therefore softening them is considered libun. Or mikol makom b'cholok muta afilu b'shel pishton. With a shirt it would be okay. Mipnei sheim malbish tachtem, because that's more like an underwear. It's sort of it's ve'enoi near b'chutz. It's not sort of it's not visible from the outside. Mistomahu mischaven rakachei. There you don't really care about the creases in your vest or something like that, and therefore to soften that would be okay. Now, so all right, let's just do Vov and then we'll just summarize and we'll talk about things. This is an interesting one. If you're walking in the mud and you've got some dirt and some mud on your feet, sometimes you want to sort of wipe it off with a metal bar. So that's what this sif is talking about. Vov. Tit shal ragloi, if you've got mud or dirt on your foot, oyal minolov, or on your shoes, mekanche bekoisel, you can sort of wipe them on a wall, avaloi bekarkam, and not on the ground, dilma osil ashvi gumos, because you might come to level or to fill in the holes in the ground, v'yesh mi she'oisel bekoisel, there are those who forbid even doing it on a wall, v'yesh mi she'matzah b'shneim, and there are those who are matzah doing it on both, v'uadin demutal hasira b'na'at cheres, to take a little bit of cheres, a bit of clay, a shard or something, harei letaltel, to wipe off the mud or the dirt from your shoe. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Al minolo, v'loi domi lemad is b'sifches, and it's not different to what we're going to get to Mishnah in sifches. Ein megardin minal, that you can't wipe a minal bein chodesh bein yoshan, whether it's old or new, because havaynu afilu yesh tit al gabov, even if there's a bit of dirt on it, for kavnos lahasir tit, and because you want to remove the dirt, or commercial kasav the sham, because in sivches leasrin begav sakin. There, the problem is you're taking the back of a knife and you're wiping off the material, because through your scraping, you're smoothing the leather of the shoe. By just merely sort of taking your foot and wiping against the wall, there's no real problem with machik over here. Because of Ataz or the Fizeh, yesh bechotze shedifnei pischei botik nesias. We don't see it nowadays really, but back in the day, if you have any entrances to the old shuls, ala karka, there'll be some bars al echad, like a metal bar, v'hu chad lemala, and it's sharp at the top of it. V'sham kanchinam in the lime. You know, you're walking in the mud paths of the shtetl, and you don't want to bring the mud into the shul, so you have a metal bar outside the shul, and you wipe your feet on that metal bar. What?
My parents' house still have it in Grosvenor Gardens.
Oh, really? A metal bar that you wipe, you get all the mud off your shoes. Okay, there you go. So your dad lived in the shtetl, so in Golders Green. Also, last say it's when it came to Shabbos. You can't do that on Shabbos. The Magen Avraham was actually machme, even if the metal bar was quite thick, v'rochav v'roshei, and was wide, v'loi hoya loy chayid, and there was not like a sharp point in it. Deloy gara migav hasakin, and yikanech b'koisel or b'koira or b'chidudei hamadregas, or you just wipe it on the stairs. You know, people do that sometimes. There's a step, and you can just wipe it on that. Achu mekanech b'nachas, but do it gently. And then ein lahachmi b'chol zeh. You don't have to worry about any of that. And if you want to wipe the mud off your shoes on a step or something like that, no problem. Just do it gently and it's okay. We're not really worried about mamachik ka'ar, that you're smoothing over the leather of a prat matit lachem. Certainly, if the mud is wet, bavada in lahachmi, certainly don't have to worry. After koisel shelavonim. Then there are those who are asa even wiping it on the wall. Forget the ashuvi gumus, but it's even on a wall. Mishum demechzik kamoisiv al binyan or mechazkei, because that looks like you're doing on a binyan, and it's mechazik the binyan. Well, today ein mekamchin el bekoira al gabiyevim, and therefore, according to that opinion, where you can't do it on a wall, you need to do it on a stone or a koira or something like that. V'adin to shari bekoisa shel eitz. But if you look at 34, he says binyanim shelonu nowadays. Wiping your shoe on the side of a wall or something, that no one's going to say that's Moisiv al binyan. It's just dirt on a binyan. It's not, our construction is thankfully a bit more solid than construction of old. Bishnehem Chavches says the Mishnah Berurah that a Moisiv al binyan leichashim. We're not really worried about Moisiv al binyan. Mishum the binyan chakla, who is a binyan gorua shabalei akvarim. It's like poor construction. So there are those people who are not worried bichlal about any of this, not wiping on a binyan, not wiping on floors. We're not worried about meshave gumas nowadays. But if there is a ditch in the ground, just be careful not to wipe it in that, because that could be meshav gumas. That is meshav gumas. Shalidezei shavena. Ulinin halacha hataz kosel midid drabonon yesh lismech al makilian demuta b'shneihem. When it comes to drabonons, that the Taz says you can be makel both on walls and on the floor. V'yesh miyu nachrenim shesovim denochen lahach milesa b'shneihem. V'nir de b'koisel levada yesh lismech lahatir kadas hamachaber. To wipe it on the wall, you can be makel shekein das rev harishonim. And certainly, as we saw in footnote 34, nowadays the construction, we're not really worried about that. B'mat cheres, you can take a little bit of a cheres, b'zelukul al mashar, a bit of a shard of material, and wipe off the dirt from your shoe. That's not a problem. And b'dafka to take one which is roila taltal, and lekavan simin shinches, ezech sivzayin, sorry. Ezek cheres roila taltal. So he says in 35 what he says over there. Shvar kli cheres, in there it says, the Shulchan Aruch writes that a shard, a broken piece of kli cheres, lo nizrak la'ashpa, which has not yet been thrown out, is not yet muktzah. Shekein roi lechasas b'kli al yoda, you could use it for various things to cover a kli. Fa'afilim ein mitzuyim ba'isam mokum kelim hatunim kisui. Even if you don't really need it, nonetheless it's not considered muktzah yet, and you can take that piece of shard. Let's just go back to footnote 32. We're talking. So what have we said today? Now we've said quite a lot today. when it comes to a press, we said that folding things, so long as you don't fold them in the original fold, you're going to be okay. But according to Sif Gimel, folding things in the original creases would be a problem on Shabbos. So what you do with Tallis, you can just fold it a bit loosely, and then you'd be okay. There are those who wait till Motzei Shabbos to fold it. Some say it's a school of Shalom bias, but the real reason is because it's a problem of Libun folding with the original creases. If you look at 32 in the second paragraph, he says of his manenu, when it comes to shoes. Sorry, before we get to that. Okay, with regard to trousers, I forget where I saw it. I saw it somewhere in the footnotes. But trousers, there are those who say that actually there are those who, when they take their trousers, they don't actually fold it in the creases. They just hang it over the back of a chair. They rest it over the back of a chair, and that way they don't mess up. They don't make their trousers sort of full of creases, but they just rest them gently over the back of a chair, and that way it's sort of you're not folding. It's not a problem of Libun or anything like that. There are those, I saw someone in the footnote who says that there's no problem when it comes to trousers, and therefore even putting it on a hanger or something like that is okay. I think from memory it's not clear about it. But there are those who want to be strict. They just take their trousers and they hang it over the back of a chair, drape it over the back of a chair or something like that, or the trouser press that people may have in their bedroom, they can hang it over that. That would be okay, not in the actual trouser press, but on the back of it. Regarding shoes, if you look at 32 in the second paragraph, he says, nowadays the processing and the making of shoes is so different. If you take a knife and you wipe off the mud from your shoes, no one is going to be chayshish that that's considered a problem. So he brings the Orach and says, "Ein chashash memachik af ba'ofen zeh." Meidach, that's what Gemara Shlomo says, "She'isum memachik noeg gam b'manah ba'arba shmanzeh." It does apply even to the leather shoes of our day, and therefore, when you're cleaning shoes from mud that may have accumulated, then best to do it with a material thing, but not to rub too sharp to make it shine, but just to take it off either not with a knife, but with something with the other type of material to take off the mud. Wiping it on the wall or on the floor, unless it's a place where there's a guma, that l'chayra would be okay. Seder. So there is room to be lenient on it, but if it's a dedicated one, but it seems like there is certainly room to be lenient. Okay. Seder.